Welcome to the Catholic Cafe, where Catholic truth is served fresh daily. We've made you a reservation in the luxurious corner booth, so come on in and see what's on the menu today. Now, here's your host, Deacon Jeff Drzymski.
Greetings and welcome to the Catholic Cafe. I'm Deacon Jeff, sitting in the luxurious corner booth of the Catholic Cafe. Ziggy Rodriguez is here, as always. Yeah, can't get rid of you. We did get rid of Tom successfully for a couple of days. He graciously allowed us to invite a guest in. We've had for 2 episodes now. This is our 3rd. And sadly, final, we'll say that, but who knows? Perpetual vows may be on the horizon. We may have him come back.
Sure.
But Brother Dylan Perry, who is a De La Salle Christian Brother, and he's visiting with us and just telling us all about his vocational call. That was the first episode, specifically, and then we talked about his vocational call to the Christian Brothers and the charism of the Christian Brothers, sort of on an international level, and we learned a little bit more about that. But then now we want to kind of focus on what you are doing specifically, Brother Dylan, with where you're a school principal.
That's right.
On the Blackfeet Reservation, which is in northwest Montana. And I'm sure in the audience out there, raise your hand if you've been to Blackfeet Reservation. I'm seeing not many hands go up. So I guess, like, we've talked a little bit about your own vocation, right? And I doubt that when you were like in high school at Christian Brothers High School and they said, hey, what do you want to be in your growth? It's like, I want to be a school principal on an Indian reservation. That's what I want to. I doubt you thought that immediately. Maybe you saw some videos or pictures or something that made you think like, wow, cool, I could do something like that or whatever. I don't know. But how did you end up on Blackfeet Reservation?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, and thank you for having me. That's a very specific thing to want. Not like being a firefighter or something.
Yeah.
It's not what I.
When I was a kid, I wanted to drive a garbage truck, so it would have been cool, though.
Yeah.
But you wanted to race garbage trucks.
So no, I don't think, even if I did at times think about being a teacher, never a principal, and never thought about going as far west as I've gotten.
And then beyond that, on an Indian reservation, which is we don't always find ourselves on.
True. So there's a number of pieces, I think, that have led to me now working with the Blackfeet people.
Now, are they part of a larger tribal network of some kind?
So yeah, that's what's another interesting. So they're the Blackfeet reservation is part. There's the Blackfoot Confederacy. It's there's 4 bands, 3 of which are in Alberta, Canada.
Oh, okay.
So most of the history and the culture are housed in at universities and things in Canada.
Right.
And so not only we're dealing with people who have not been removed from their land, this is still their ancestral homeland, but rather than the reservation system kind of, now it certainly did cause some trauma, but just the Canadian border cut the people.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. We're going to draw a line here.
That's right, and cut their migration patterns, and for
interesting.
So that changed a lot. So a number of ways that culture and history have impacted those people.
Is there a lot of beauty on the land itself?
My goodness, yeah, it's remarkably beautiful. I drive past lots of bison every morning on my way there.
You don't ride a bison.
I don't ride them, no. Although I could easily, if I learned to, I could probably ride a horse.
Okay.
So very rural, but we're right next to Glacier National Park, which I would say is the most beautiful national park.
Wow.
So we're not certainly.
How big of an area?
Goodness.
I don't know specific, but we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's more than a couple of miles.
It is. It's pretty big. I think it's one of the largest geographic reservations in the country. So a large property, and our school is right in the middle. So we only there's 5 or no, so I think 10,000 members of the Blackfeet tribe, but we're just doing our little part, teaching about 65 students at a time at our little little school next to the parish it's only been around for about 20 years. So I think a couple of things to touch on: how the school ended up being there, how I ended up being there, a number of things that it's all relatively recent.
But before you get into that, there's an interesting thing about the history of this particular reservation. A lot of people, I didn't know any of this until you shared this with me, and a lot of people don't realize that when the United States government started, assigning reservations, creating reservations, they would actually assign religious denominations to the various reservations. And
there was probably a government office,
right,
where they would it's like, we're just going to make you all, you're associated with this religious denomination.
And so they decided to say that the Blackfeet would be Methodist.
I think so.
Is that
yeah.
correct? And then how did the Blackfeet tribe respond at that point?
And so, no, there's still a Methodist presence on the reservation, but the Jesuits were the first Europeans to interact with the Blackfeet in the early 1800s. In addition to maybe some Canadian fur trappers. And so they had been interacted with Jesuits, so much so that the word for Jesuit in Blackfeet, or the word for Catholic in Blackfeet, translates to black robe.
Oh, interesting.
And so a friend of mine who's an expert in the language, and I wear a long black habit as well, and said, I never knew why that was the word until I saw you.
That's cool. That's a cool. So they were like, hey, we already got an association with the Jesuits.
No, we're already Catholic.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
And there's a strong Catholic presence on the reservation, and a pretty strong. I think if you're a Christian or if you're practicing Christianity, then you're very likely Catholic. And there's a lot of overlap in traditional practice. And Catholic practice, a lot of ways in which they.
I would
work
imagine.
together.
I'm not an expert on the American Indian and the experience, but I'm also not oblivious to some bits of history and things like that. And I would imagine that the Blackfeet Reservation, like many of the different, all the varying different kinds of life of the Indian experience. There's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of struggle, there's a lot of strife in those communities. Is that the same thing that's in Blackfeet?
We have very high rates of fentanyl use and overdose. That I think is a carryover from some alcohol issues previously. Very high rates of suicide, especially among the youth.
Poverty is that
fairly impoverished.
Yeah.
That's also, I think, just general. It's very rural where we are, and a lot of ranchers and ranch land and that kind of thing. And so it kind of looks big and empty in general. I'm not sure about specific rates of poverty and things like that.
But the point is, it's a place where there's a need for ministry.
Definitely a lot of trauma, and that we hold to be. We recently rewrote our mission statement, and working to heal the traumas. We're working with our constituents to understand how to heal trauma and to find their own power for our students is really important, especially as a ministry of the Catholic Church, to recognize and be a part of the traumas that the Church itself was a part of. Now we're in that way somewhat immune from some of those things because our school is only 20 years old.
Right.
But my community, the four brothers that I live with, live on the old Jesuit land that was a boarding school and has some of that history to it that we still are identified with, whether our order was a part of it or not.
Right, and that can be problematic, I would imagine.
Definitely. So there's a fair bit.
It's
of
a complicated
mistrust.
history.
It is
very
a complicated history, and so our school was started out of the Curcio movement, which was very big on the reservation. I think because
I did not. I mean, I've been involved in Curcio for most of my adult Catholic life, and it's interesting. I didn't know that.
De Colores, right?
Yes.
So the folks who were really involved with Curcio, I think in the 80s, were saying we need a school as part of, because they were I think the Curcio movement there was helping to heal some of these traumas, And the pastor at the time, Father Ed Kohler, had known our brothers from Guatemala. Now, two of the brothers that I currently, the president of our school, ministered for a long time in Guatemala as well. I'm not sure if they knew each other, but so he knew our brothers from Guatemala, and petitioned the brothers of the Midwest to start a school for 10 years before we finally was writing letters and asking, and we weren't sure that we could. We had no ministries near there. The closest school, I think, it would be in the California province. We have schools in Oregon and Washington State, but nowhere in Montana or anything.
Right.
And so this is kind of out of our realm of, but he kept at. So he was persistent, kept asking, and eventually
squeaky wheel gets the grease.
That's right.
That's the way God operates. There's many parables.
That's right. And we eventually, went out there, and some brothers who had already had experience doing what I would consider to be sort of innovative and work with people on the margins, who had been involved with with Catholic worker houses and other ministries related to Dorothy Day and things like that. Were sort of on the forefront of this kind of work, and so went out there at the time that we were starting elementary schools all over the country as a part of what we call the San Miguel movement. We were brother San Miguel Febres Cordero, that's inspired out of oh my gosh, I lose details, when I'm talking too much. But so San Miguel, which many people might be in Memphis are familiar with, De La Salle Blessed Sacrament, was a San Miguel school. But we start these non-tuition driven schools in impoverished areas or high needs areas that was working their extended hours. So we have our students from 7:30 to 4:30. And do a lot of work to help catch them up with academically, socially, emotionally, all kinds of things like that. To let we get extra time with them, and but the key is that it's not tuition driven, and that we take a small tuition, but it costs about $15,000 to educate a student at our school, and we don't ask our parents nearly that much.
Right.
And so that's the model. That's how the brothers got to be in Montana. Now, how I got to be...
Yeah, I was going to say, because it sounds like, it has to be some kind of work of the Lord to have gotten you involved in this.
So it has a lot also to do with the San Miguel movement. So I was... I mentioned previously I had been working, I was the associate director of LaSallian Volunteers, which has now since closed, but was a volunteer program that sent college graduates around the country. And so I had visited the school as a part of that ministry. I had, and then I also, in my first year or my second year of postulancy, taught at San Miguel in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
So I began to be interested. I basically learned to teach at middle school, and I had definitely never saw myself. And I think when I started being interested in education, I was going to be a college philosophy professor. I knew that's the level and the subject. They don't teach philosophy in middle school, explicitly at least.
There's a certain nerdy crowd that might be excited to hear that there would be a philosophy class in middle school, but
I did eventually get to teach high school philosophy for a few years in Minneapolis, which is exciting. But so when I was in Minneapolis, which is my previous ministry, I began to discern an interest in administration, an interest in going back and working with younger students, and sort of feeling, a call towards what we're talking about, more marginal ministries, especially with some of the international conversations that I've been a part of that are talking about how that's the work of our charism. And so the beauty of religious vows is that you got someone else looking out for you. You have superiors who are helping you with this discernment. So my we call him a brother visitor. Some call it provincial superior. We have it's a very relational word. It means our superior is just someone who comes and visits you.
Your boss.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And so we were sitting, in a setting like this in a cafe, and he says, "I got a crazy idea, Dylan. How about, they haven't had, they need a principal out in Montana, and I would have a year before I might have expected my heart to sink and my stomach to do backflips, and without knowing really what that meant or what was expected of me or anything, that doesn't sound that crazy." And so obviously it took some time.
So obviously there were seeds that had been planted that had started to germinate.
Exactly. Now, so then that's the professional side of it, and I was interested in. But while I was in Tulsa working in middle school, I had the opportunity to sort of practice some middle school administration where there's some needs that popped up, and I was able to fill in. So there's some of that, as well as being in a place that school was entirely ministering to Hispanic students.
So let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. I mean, you find yourself here in this school, and really, what I think people who are listening right now are going like, "Okay, I get it. You got there. Mm-hmm. That's all interesting." But what's most interesting is like, what is it like? Because we don't have a ready example of what it's like to be on an Indian reservation. Mm-hmm. And you're saying that it's
good point.
Is it a Hispanic culture?
No. Sorry. So
are they steeped in indigenous culture and Blackfeet culture?
Relatively, So this, and I think a lot of our experience is more in southwestern indigenous culture, which is more Hispanic. We're 20 minutes from the Canadian border.
Yeah.
So. Our kids are very Canadian in their
interesting.
In their
I don't even know what that means though, because that's far from me as well.
It's cowboy culture. I mean, Alberta is I think the Texas of Canada.
Is it in the predominant language on the reservation?
So there's a lot of work being done, and we're currently doing to reclaim the Blackfeet language, but there are very few fluent speakers.
Okay.
So English is predominant. Although in education terms, not a lot of academic English being spoken, so it's all very
interesting.
So
but then I would imagine there are going to be some cultural words like that that they would bring in.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, so the word for hello in Blackfeet is oki.
Okay.
So you see a lot. So exactly. So then you get that a bit for just general greetings and some of those things. But so few people, unfortunately, speak the language that is not incorporated very well. But culturally, there's a lot of things that are. That sort of work in, but it's just, it's a very rural and very cowboy culture. So a lot of rodeos and powwows and.
Is part of what you do are you guys as Christian Brothers, is one of your side gigs, charisms, missions there? Is it to help them rebuild and reclaim their culture and?
Not explicitly, but it is more part of the mission of the school, and so we have a full-time Native Studies coordinator who's working on that kind of outreach and building programs, and that's it's a lot of general missionary kinds of stuff, building relationships with elders to understand the culture, and this is definitely a challenge to be in some ways to help to impart. Cultural knowledge that you're not a part of. So I have a lot of experience with doing that with Catholicism, with people who maybe aren't as interested.
Right.
But it's the opposite with some of this stuff where they're very interested, but I don't know a lot about. I'm not an expert. And so I think that's a really beautiful experience, actually, of being certainly being among the minority in an area.
Yeah. Well, this is where you see education as an exchange.
Exactly.
Right. Versus like a top-down kind of we're implanting knowledge upon you, but there's more of an exchange of things
That's right.
And that happens in the world everywhere. And, it's all about what you're talking about, community and relationship.
Exactly. So building that, and you're right, the exchange, our Native Studies coordinator talks a lot about things being reciprocal, and so being explicit about how this relationship is reciprocal between the church and the tribe, and how we are working together for the betterment of our young people.
Yeah, speaking of the young people, tell me about the kids.
Oh my gosh.
What is that like?
Well, they're wonderful, and I don't know. I'm picturing lots of kids, and it's all just washing over me. I would say, it's challenging. Mostly, in my case, I would say the working in a rural school. It's hard to find opportunities for.
Right.
It's not like even in like inner city education, you can go to a museum. They can do a museum or different things like that. So in a rural place where we'd have to drive a whole day to get to something like that, it's hard to provide some of those opportunities, which is a distinct challenge for us. And so the resources, and even among some other indigenous schools. We're not near a bigger city that might have the resources to support or to donate. So we're not next to a large metropolitan area. But there's a lot of great programming that we do. One thing I definitely have to mention that I think is an amazing part of our ministry is what we call our immersion program. So we invite high school and college students from around the country. We host about 30 or so groups that come in and stay with us in our community, live with us, pray with us, eat with us, and then also are working with our students, learning about, have speakers and readings and things to learn about indigenous issues and all these things. So we're able to bring people in, and then they're able to take that message out. So yes, you're right. Big problem with what we're talking about is people don't know, and a big part of our ministry is helping people know.
Well, we should, speaking of that, we should bring up the website for your school to help people who are interested and want to help. I imagine that you guys probably could use some help, especially financially, but
definitely
prayerfully. And if they go to, there's a website you have, it's dlsbs.org. So De La Salle Blackfeet School.org. Or as Sam pointed out in the last episode, if you just Google Blackfeet School, this place is going to be like the first hit.
That's
right.
First hit, yeah.
Blackfeet School, and you'll be able to find out more about what you guys do there, the important work that you're doing there. And then to be able to help financially support that, because again, until Sam had told me that he'd run into you and he knew you, and it's like, this might be an interesting topic. I'd never even heard of this. I knew these kinds of things happened in some places, but it was remote to me. But now to hear this and I would imagine that you on a daily basis experience like something in these kids' eyes that tell you that you're doing, not specifically you, but that the work, the charism, the work, the order is doing something good here.
Yeah. In a place that has a lot of historical and even some ongoing trauma related to psychological issues and chemical issues, they feel safe with us. They talk about a lot. They feel good. They feel happy. They feel safe to be kids, to know who they are, and to learn and to grow. And I think that's huge. And we're also doing, that's the social emotional part, I think, is an important part of Catholic education.
Yeah.
We're also providing quality education. We have programs that are helping to get students up to speed in math and reading. Really excited about a new initiative that we started last year called the Little Flower Academy. Our parish is Therese of Lisieux.
Okay.
But focusing on her little way, we're teaching our 4th and 5th graders in a combined classroom in a sort of Montessori style to explore and learn and getting them ready and excited for their middle school education. By teaching them how to be self-driven, self-motivated in a place that often is challenged with that and has very some challenging education outcomes. and I think that just goes to show how caring about people, focusing on them, putting, and it's not necessarily, certainly we would appreciate some additional resources, but just putting your attention on people and caring about them makes a huge difference to the impact.
I would also, I guess I would just ratify, based on what you're telling me, you're in a place where I think lack of opportunity it's fair to say, right?
Definitely.
And there's lots of, as you've said, trauma, but lots of challenges to that opportunity. And the reality is what you guys are doing is providing, in essence, hope for some of these kids.
Yes.
And so this is you're truly, this is the work of the Lord here.
Thank you.
And so anybody that can help, especially with your prayers. But if you want to find out more, dlsbs.org or Blackfeet School, just Google that and you'll find out more about what Brother Dylan Perry is doing there. Along with, are there other brothers present in that area, or are you?
No, right now, no. Community, as we talk about a lot about relationship, community is an essential part of who we are. And so the president of the school as well, Brother Dale Mooney, who was recently spotlighted, he was a Lumen Christi nominee for Catholic Extension. And Brother Jim Krause, who longtime missionary. So great work being done.
You got a little mini community there.
Exactly. Some great support happening.
But you guys are doing some incredible work, and I think it's quite beautiful. And we'll continue to pray for you, Brother Dylan. We really appreciate the fact that you take the time to come and visit us here, really at the Catholic Cafe, to help us to see exactly what you guys are doing out there, and just invite people to prayerfully support you financially if you can, but just to if you're interested in the Christian Brothers, brothersvocation.org. But anyway, Brother Dylan, thank you so much for joining us here in the Catholic Cafe.
Thanks so much for having me.
Let's ask the Blessed Virgin to watch over that school and those peoples. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Thanks for listening to the Catholic Cafe. If you'd like to contact Deacon Jeff, send him an email at deaconjeff@thecatholiccafe.com. Visit us on the web at thecatholiccafe.com. You can also find us on iTunes or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. The Catholic Cafe is brought to you by the Order of Malta Federal Association. Join us again at the Catholic Cafe, serving up salvation one cup of coffee at a time.